Legal implications of NFTs.
Hi, gentlemen. Nice to see you on the panel. Let's start from introduction. As Anna briefly introduced me, so I'm crypto enthusiast, I'm legal professional, legal advisor dealing with crypto asset, blockchain stuff, NFTs, DeFis, fan tokens, so everything related to crypto and blockchain. I'm really passionate about it. So Gordon, what about you?
We can pretty much just ditto your biography and copy and paste it over to me. Gordon Einstein, the founder of CryptoLaw Partners. I've been doing crypto and blockchain since 2014. I actually went back into law so that I could practice crypto and blockchain law. For you, those of you who know the legal profession, that's like a prisoner checking himself back into prison because he missed his cell and his cellmate. So I'm very enthusiastic about this area. I've excited and mixed feelings about NFTs. So I look forward to cooperating and arguing with my fellow legal eagles on this panel, and I'll hand it back to you.
Dot, is correct pronounce or Dot?
Yeah, Doubt, like there's no doubt about it.
Dot, sorry.
Yeah, no props. It was a good pronunciation. So I'm Doubt. I'm one of the founders of License Rocks, and we are recently launched NFT white label solution with a little licensing twist, and we're since 2017 in that space, and we came all the way across from licensing used software up to having now that real versatile NFT suite around licensing.
Andrew, your turn.
For sure, yeah. So I'm the founding partner of Bull Blockchain Law. It's a law firm based in the United States, and our client base is relatively diverse as the application of blockchain is, and all of our clients operate in the space some way, shape, or form. And as a result, we have a lot of NFT clients considering the recent boom in the industry. So always happy to discuss the legal side of NFTs and so on and so forth. I actually got into this space on the technical side originally, ran an investment fund and a mining company in the Northeast of the United States. So, but now full legal.
Yeah, thank you. So to bring the legal stuff from the very beginning, so a little disclaimer, hey guys, we do not provide legal advice here. We just discuss non-legal matters. So any advice will not be tailored to your business. So just to put it in legal space from the very beginning. So guys, let's start maybe like from the beginning. NFTs. Was it an NFT for you, like a lawyer?
Well, yeah, I mean, the legal nature of it kind of corresponds with the name of it. It's a unique property object. It's unlike any other. It's non-fungible. I mean, which kind of removes it from the generic commodity category. So it's more analogous, if you like, to these common use cases of art and real estate. But I don't think it needs to be just that. I think there's an interesting argument that NFTs may re-enable bearer instruments, bearer securities, but that's a longer conversation.
That it is. Yeah, jumping off of what Gordon's saying, I mean, traditionally, like when you think about just blockchain in general, it's obviously the ability to move proprietary information in a secure manner. And so with the NFT context, it's like you're basically being able to transfer for the ownership record of whatever the underlying asset is. And so obviously it's not visible in this case. Well, we'll get to that, but most of the standard ones aren't. So.
Yeah. I can already tell we're all lawyers because we're all parsing out everyone's sentences. I can tell by the facial expressions. So, yeah. Go ahead.
But just to be right, like I'm not a lawyer, so because you pointed us all out as lawyers, okay. I just pay lawyers. I'm your
so you're the client. That means you're higher up. You're higher up.
So I see the other perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Sure.
Just to get it right, but for me, like an NFT is always like granting a usage right on something that someone owned before. That's like how I see NFTs.
Well, I'm going to dive right in, and sorry, moderator, but excuse me. Must it be the case that it was always owned before? What's stopping us from saying it, like minting a commemorative coin NFT just on the blockchain, like a blockchain native NFT?
It always depends, like in which legislation you are operating, and I just try to keep it like as small as possible, and then try to follow the legal framework around it, because I don't want to, I don't know, get in too much trouble in saying something whereby you did that disclaimer in the beginning, so I can say whatever I
You're
want
safe.
right now. Right?
Every conversation here is hypothetical, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So also, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So
I
also,
tend to talk
I
more.
was really impressed first to work with NFTs. And, like my first impression was an idea was NFT. What is for? Why we needed NFT instead of some real object? And currently, I just see two implications of NFTs. Basically, it can be like on the very like basic level. It can be some representation of ownership over object, or it can be like some kind of representation of license for object. But however, we can do like single NFTs or NFTs with underlying assets. And so here, like, let's go to our next question. So, and for example, what risks actually you see for like each party for NFTs relations, like creators who created this and who created an artwork, minted NFT and decides to sell it, for collector who would like to purchase and to be sure that everything goes right, for marketplaces who deal with both parties and try to keep things right there, and for like some minting facilities, minting protocol, just who provides some technical facilities. So what risk do you see here?
If I can start off, so there's you listed a whole laundry list of things. So there's a lot of potential ones. It depends. I'd say there's two broad categories. If you're forming an NFT that has a physical reference object or has some kind of reference object behind it, for example, a piece of art or a piece of land or something else, that's one category of risk. If you're minting an NFT, which I think makes a lot of sense, that's blockchain native and doesn't have an original asset behind it, that's another class of risk. But I'd argue that's less risk. When you're making NFTs from pre-existing objects, you're doing what we've been doing for a while, which is trying to tokenize an asset, and you're introducing all the complexity that goes along with tokenizing an asset. Some things are not natively physically divisible. Like you can't physically divide the Mona Lisa, or you can, but you'll destroy it in the process. When you NFT or fractionalize ownership of the Mona Lisa, it is unclear from a legal perspective what that, even if you had one NFT representing the Mona Lisa, it's not entirely clear what the legal relationship is between that NFT and the Mona Lisa. Whether do you have copyright? Can you take physical possession of it? Can you rent it out? Can you get the income stream? And then when you fractionalize it and distribute amongst many parties, you have all your classic tenant in common problems, which is, does that automatically mean that the majority of the token holders can vote on what to do with it? What do you do? Then you start introducing governance. You start introducing copyright. It's a morass that, if NFTs crash, maybe we'll avoid it because there'll be nothing left to fight over. But if they go up in value and are here to stay, people are going to start to argue about what this means. And there's nothing about NFTs that lets you escape regular law. So it's an exciting time.
For sure, yeah. And Guy, I'll also kind of add to that and get a little bit more specific, because in my opinion, the highest risk really comes in the marketplace context. And so from a transactional standpoint, you kind of have this overarching question of like who's in control of facilitating the transactions, whether the ability of the marketplace is fully centralized and to the extent that they can stop transactions, so on and so forth. Obviously, a lot of marketplaces are distancing themselves away from that transactional authority, but that is very much for sure a risk. And then I'll also take the most recent example with the lawsuit in New York against Dapper Labs, which obviously is NBA Top Shots. And realistically, I mean, they're potentially running into securities issues, while I think that the claimants in that case have a really large uphill battle to prove that NFTs are in fact securities, are violating an investment contract definition on the Securities Act. That's we'll find out. Well, actually, we probably won't. But the general notion is that when you're offering a service or a marketplace and you have access from users, artists, whoever, you're taking on inherent risk because you're facilitating transactions in that context. And also the larger question is, which jurisdiction are you in? And are you facilitating transactions in multiple jurisdictions? Because when you take, for example, OpenSea or another platform that is similar to that, where they're actually allowing for all these different transactions to take place in multiple jurisdictions, they're taking on this additional risk because they're creating a nexus within whatever the underlying regulations are in those foreign jurisdictions. And going all the way back to the United States as an example, I would say that one of the unknown questions is point when you start getting into fractionalization ownership rather than just outright, oh, I have an NFT and it represents this art, you're getting into this whole other sphere where it's been ongoing now for real estate, underlying real world assets, equity, debt, where security tokens are in fact issued. It's also going back to that underlying question of whether the NFT is in of itself a security, which again, like I think that it's contextual and specific, and generally ERC 721 tokens are not, but that's yet to be seen with the fractionalization side.
And I'm going to throw this at you because I'm noodling on this. If you have a fractional interest in a non-security, and it's not producing an income stream, does the fact that it's not by definition non-fungible remove the common enterprise prong? And he knows what I'm talking about. I probably just lost the entire audience.
Absolutely. Well, one, it's a great question. I think that from like kind of like a high level perspective, yes, for all intents and purposes. Like I think that you can make that argument, but also the other consideration is like how it was created and how it was facilitated in terms of actually acquiring in the first place. Because like, right, for example, if it's just a straight up NFT that's been minted by an owner and then they sell it to you in that context, and then you're fractionalizing it and selling off different levels of ownership or something along those lines. Then
to interrupt you.
Like, what's the enterprise and the common enterprise?
Exactly.
Guys,
right.
Sorry, it looks like I just a bit second. Looks like
I had to do it because I know I can already tell how Andrew's brain works, and I knew he would get what I was saying. So sorry, I had to go there. All right, guys, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. It just looks like because it was too lawyer-like question, and we go into legal details, and I'm just afraid that people who are watching us being bored.
Well, you know,
I understand, but just
no worries.
I'm afraid that people will not understand. Dot, a question for you. So I see that your platform trying to implement NFTs in real world, and just to confirm some kind of ownership on our NFT. And could you share more details? Like, how would you like to confirm what is genuine and what is not?
Well, it depends. Like there's creators market where you can do provenance from the creator side. And then there are secondary markets where what Gordon mentioned before, like if there's already an existing asset, and if there's an existing asset, you need some kind of validation that that person is entitled to sell that asset. And we always try to differ between like on-chain things that we can prove, but also looking at off-chain validation. And we need a combination at the moment because there's no common law ground like for just doing everything on-chain. And that's something what lawyers probably like a lot, because there's a lot of contracting involved. But I see tons of other solutions out there where I'm not too sure if they're really legally compliant, because I think you still need the off-chain contracting part always when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, right. So, and like one funny thing for me, for example, when I talk about risks, and we'll just not go again to some complicated legal stuff. So, for example, you mint NFT, you put underlying asset to marketplace put it to some kind of hosting, and hosting disappears. So everyone a creator didn't have any copies, collector also don't have any copies, and marketplace, for example, even not existed. So here it will be funny stuff regarding NFTs and real complication of NFTs, like what is really, what we are really buying. So Gordon, like let's go to some plain terms. Like
it is not clear. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just enjoy talking legally, but I'm just thinking that everyone will just blow up with
fine. In basic English, it's not clear what you're buying. It's not clear because when you, especially, you can argue. There's this idea of, if you and I go into a contract, you and I have rights we can enforce against each other. It's called privity of contract. But these things fly around the blockchain verse, often to anonymous wallets, and they don't have contractually enforceable rights often. Even if there's an underlying piece, just take art to use my favorite example. Suppose there's some underlying art and you tokenize it and you sell those tokens. What if the person who owns it sells it? What does that mean for the token holders? Did they get a share of what you just earned? It may sound reasonable and just, but they don't necessarily have a contractual right to that. Whether art gets destroyed by mistake and insurance is paid, is that going to get paid out? What if it gets lost in transit? It is not at all clear the rights that it conveys. You really need to. We're not there yet. We're not where we need to be. I look with a appreciative yet very questionable eye at this idea of tokenizing physical art or other physical assets, because it's a tenuous relationship at best. I think really the way to go right now is to tokenize things for the first time on the blockchain and kind of let the code operate as law. I think that's much closer to something that's sustainable, because everyone is on notice because they know what the code says. They're not on notice with just owning art. I mean, who knows what's going on? And then there's this trend right now of creating something and then literally just physically destroying it, so the only version of it that remains is on the blockchain. Well, why don't you just put it on the blockchain in the first place? Like, why are you destroying a perfectly good physical thing? It seems like we're all kind of pretending that actually does something. I'm not sure it really does. I mean, why would you're destroying value? It's not like a transporter where it's not like you're getting beamed up and all of a sudden, the thing is suddenly manifesting over here. No, you're destroying this and creating something new over here that kind of looks like it. And what the legal consequences of that are unclear. And it's not clear to me that the value is actually getting transferred. So mixed feelings.
Yeah, Andrew. And what is in black box for you?
Sorry?
And what goes in black box of NFT for you? So what we actually buying?
Well,
in your opinion?
No, I mean, I agree with Gordon, and also kind of going off that general point. I mean, before we get into the kind of the conversation about burning stuff, like going back to, like, for example, issuing a cease and desist letter to somebody who doesn't actually have ownership of the underlying asset, or like the situation that you just described, Guy, where you have this whole interaction between multiple parties and then something disappears. Like, that's just going to get tangled up in those parties going against each other in some type of legal fashion. And then you're going to rely on some arbitrator or potential judge or governing body to make a decision about it. And I think this is a really good example of kind of the unknown of this, like, answer to this question, but also the unknown of kind of the general perception of the industry for even the people operating in the industry. So, for example, like, we have a case in federal court in the United States, and there's a dispute over whether what the platform sold was in fact an NFT. And it's not even a outright securities claim like the one Gordon and I were talking about before with Dapper Labs. It's just them saying, like, this is fraud because you sold us something that you told us was an NFT, but it's not. But who's determining what an NFT is? There's no statutory language or definition.
Actually, no. Actually, doesn't. So actually, nobody don't know what it is, like, for sure. So, and maybe we'll go to our last question. So I come across to one interesting fact. So when you're looking at some terms and conditions or terms of service for NFT marketplaces, you can find that, for example, marketplace platform holds and possesses more rights for use or in some aspects for use of underlying artwork even than collector has. So who bought NFT, who bought some kind of license over asset, and basically platform can display it or perform it unlimited, and collector has limitations so far. Platform has no limitation for like exhibiting it or make some kind of derivative works, and collector have such limitation. What do you think about it?
If I may, it's important to distinguish the token. It's important to distinguish an underlying object from, number one, its legal definition, number two, the tokenized version of it, and number three, from the market it's being traded in. Each one of those can add value to the underlying asset. You know, the Teslas, you know, just like the environment within which something operates add values. Teslas in the desert have no value because there's no electricity. Okay, Teslas where there's power stations have value. And just like phones only have value where there's internet, where there's a wireless coverage. So the fact that you can tokenize something means that you can bring all the benefits that tokenization brings to something. Like when you tokenize gold, you can make change of gold. It's very hard to make change with physical gold. I mean, how do you pay someone? If you buy a cow with some gold, how do you make change? If you have tokenized gold, it's a lot easier, right? So the mere act of tokenizing something makes it valuable. The mere act of having something in a market makes it valuable. And the mere fact of having legal fictions make it valuable. Just like when you have productive resources, if you wrap them inside like a company form or corporate form, you can do all kinds of neat things like issue shares or go into leases and do all this other stuff. So that's not unique to assets that you tokenize or just underlying assets. These things all generically add value. So I think your point is well taken. It's just I would focus more on the context within which something's operating as a value adder rather than the thing itself.
Yeah, thank you. Andrew, what do you think about some disproportion for average user?
For sure. I mean, again, I think that the risk increases the longer the asset is being transacted with. So like from the initiation of the actual creation of it, from a user perspective, and this was really highlighted in the Dapper Labs complaint that was submitted, is that they're basically saying that we didn't have all the information and you didn't provide us all the information that we need sufficiently to make a decision to actually acquire this NFT. So from a user standpoint, I mean, the rights are pretty limited in terms of obviously operating within the marketplaces that are existing. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be subject to an element of control from them, for sure. I mean, unless it's a peer-to-peer transaction. So I would say that the user is definitely lower on the totem pole in terms of ultimate control when you're participating on a marketplace.
Yeah, great. Dot, last question goes to you. What do you think, in your opinion, what current improvements can be made to NFT industry as a whole? What kind of things we have a lack in this industry, like customer support, for example, or clearance? What are NFTs, or some kind of education regarding NFTs, or like some basic legal stuff, or explained to average user? So, what will be best improvement for the industry?
Yeah, it kind of goes also to your other question that you put in place. Like, people don't understand what they buy into. And if I use a marketplace, they define it in the terms, yeah, and I have to read through the terms, then I know what my rights are. And right now, if I buy an NFT, I see sometimes people buying into NFT, which give them a private usage right, and they pay like thousands of euros for that. But for what? They don't even know what they can do with that. And they think they are buying into something that they can monetize in another way. But if they would really look into that, and if there would be a visualization and a common ground of legal frameworks that would indicate an end user what they're getting with an NFT, I think that would be really beneficial for the market, because right now a lot of people just don't get it and just see numbers, and you can earn money with that, and you can speculate on it. And I don't know.
Right.
I think that's also really needed.
Yeah, also things like from some perspective, I see that like most of users do not have clear opinion what they actually own or what they actually purchase. So thank you guys for an interesting conversation. I like our some kind of little legal battles and our general legal stuff. So if you have some words you'd like to express something, just feel free.
For sure, yeah. The last thing I would say is kind of more reiterating my earlier point about the marketplace context. There's a very consumer protection focus within not only governmental agencies in the United States, but also the EU specifically. And so if you're facilitating transactions on a marketplace, just know that it might behoove you to have some type of KYC and anti-money laundering policy within your business. It's just a recommendation. It's not legal advice.
Sure. Sounds good.
My advice is ignore Elon, buy Bitcoin.
My advice is you will like that, consult a lawyer before you launch something.
That was actually the best comment of the whole thing. Good job.
Those guys didn't pay me for it.
All right. I love you, man. Love you.
Definitely. And I remind to everyone, it was not legal advice, not investment advice, so just
life advice.
Yeah. Sure, definitely. And I think that we have done.
Yep. All right. Peace out. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate
Take
it.
care.
Bye.
Bye.